In the beginning, there was just God, according to the book of Genesis in the Bible. Then God decided to create the world. On the first day, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep waters. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good. God separated the light from the darkness, calling the light day and the darkness night. On the second day, God separated the waters to create the sky. Above is sky, and the water below. On the third day, God gathered the waters together to form seas, and dry land appeared. God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were gathered together he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God created plants and trees bearing fruit in which is their seed, each according to its kind. On the fourth day, God created the sun, moon, and stars to light up the earth and mark the seasons. The sun shines during the day, and the moon and stars light up the night. On the fifth day, God filled the seas with the great sea creatures and every living creature that moves. He also created birds to fly across the sky, and God saw how wonderful they were and told them to multiply and fill the seas and skies. Lastly, on the sixth day, God created land animals, wild animals, and all the creatures that move along the ground. God did something very special. He created people, a man and a woman, naming them Adam and Eve. God gave them the whole world to take care of. He told them to look after the animals and the plants, and to have children so that people would fill the earth. Finally, on the seventh day, God finished the work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all the work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all the work that he had done in creation. The story of creation in Genesis tells us how everything started with God making the world. Day by day, God crafted everything we see around us, from the sky and seas to plants, animals, and even people like Adam and Eve. Finally, after all the work, God rested, showing us the importance of rest and enjoying what we have. In the bustling city of Capernaum, located on the Sea of Galilee, there lived a man named Jairus. He was a respected leader in the local synagogue, known for his faith and unwavering devotion to God. Despite his respected position, Jairus was unable to get treatment for his beloved daughter, who was just 12 years old and seriously ill. Despite Jairus taking care day and night, the daughter's fever was continuously increasing like a flame. He sought help from every doctor in the city, but no one could cure him. Disheartened and filled with pain, Jairus fell on his knees and pleaded with God. Then Jairus heard about the miracles Jesus performed in helping people and spreading the message of God's love. Hearing of Jesus' appearance, Jairus ran to find Jesus, determined to seek help for his sick daughter. Passing through the crowd of people, he finally caught sight of Jesus, who was surrounded by his disciples and teaching by the lake. With trembling hands and a voice full of pleading, Jairus fell at Jesus' feet and said to Jesus, "My daughter is on the verge of death. I beg you, please come and lay your healing hands on her, that she get well." Hearing what Jairus said, Jesus said in a gentle voice, "Take me to him." Jairus led Jesus through the crowded streets. As Jairus and Jesus walked through the bustling streets, crowds began to gather around them, waiting to see what was about to happen. There was also a woman in the crowd who had been suffering from a debilitating illness for 12 years. He had spent all his wealth searching for a cure, yet his condition grew worse. The woman, filled with desperation and hope, began to move forward into the crowd, believing that if she touched Jesus' garment, she would be healed. With trembling hands, she reached out to touch the garment of Jesus. As soon as she touched the garment of Jesus, she felt a flow of power in her body, and she knew that she was beginning to be healed. Jesus, feeling the touch of faith, turned to the crowd and asked emphatically, "Who touched me?" Trembling with fear and amazement, the woman came forward and fell at Jesus' feet and confessed what had happened. Jesus smiled at her with love and compassion and said, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering." Hearing this, the woman's heart was filled with gratitude and happiness, and she left the place. Seeing this, Jairus thought in his mind that if this old woman could be cured, then who knows, my daughter would also be cured. Then messengers came from Jairus' house with news. He said, "Your daughter is dead." Hearing this, Jairus starts crying. Jesus looked at Jairus and said, "Don't be afraid, let me see him just once." Jairus took Jesus to his home, where there were crowds of mourners and heavy sadness in the air. Jesus entered the girl's room. Jesus took the girl's cold, lifeless hand in his and spoke words of power and life. Jesus says with authority, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." At the same time, the girl's eyes opened, and she started looking around with surprise and confusion and sat up. When Jairus and his family saw the miraculous power of Jesus, the room was filled with wonder and joy. Now tears of joy were flowing from Jairus' face. And as he departed from their home, leaving behind a family forever changed by his touch, he took with him the hope and faith of all who had witnessed the miracle that day. And so, the story of Jesus' healing touch became a testament to the transformative power of faith, a beacon of hope for all who dared to believe in the promise of salvation and new life. The story of Jairus' daughter reminds us that no matter how dire our situation may seem, we are never alone. With faith in Jesus' healing touch and the support of a compassionate community, we can find solace, strength, and the promise of new life. In the country of Israel, there lived a hard-working farmer named David who had a small family, and everyone in his family loved him very much. David's fields often had good grain yields, compared to others whose fields did not yield such good grain yields, which caused some people to become very jealous of him and planned to kill David, and a man killed him, killed by stoning. A few years later, David is born as a wolf in the forest near the village. The wolf, with anger in his eyes and saliva dripping from his mouth, is completely enraged. David used to harass people a lot at night and sometimes even took away people's children. Fed up with this, the villagers went to the local priest. The priest told them that this was the same David whom the villagers had killed. The villagers are surprised to hear this and ask the priest to help them. The priest agrees, and they come to the village where the priest remembers Jesus when the wolf comes to them. Jesus comes to the priest to help the villagers. Jesus said to the creature,
"Why are you doing this?"
The wolf says that the villagers killed me, and I will not leave them. Jesus says,
"If you kill these people, what difference will there be between you and them? And now you stop it."
The wolf says, "How can I stop them? They have not shown mercy even to my little children. How can I leave them?"
"I know bad things have happened to you, and now these people have realized their mistake. Now you calm down."
Hearing this, the wolf calms down. Everyone was surprised to see that the wolf had calmed down and was paying attention to what Jesus was saying, his aggressive stance softening as he looked into his eyes. The darkness that had engulfed the wolf's heart began to disappear, replaced by a feeling of peace and tranquility. Taking one last look at Jesus, the creature turned and walked into the forest, following the path of hope and salvation. The moral of this story is that forgiveness is powerful. When we let go of anger and seek understanding, we can break the cycle of violence and find peace. It also teaches us to be kind and empathetic towards others, as showing mercy can lead to healing and redemption for everyone involved. There lived a young boy named Joseph in a country called Canaan. He was his father Jacob's favorite son, and had a special coat of many beautiful colors which his father had given him. Now, Joseph had big dreams, and he shared them with his brothers. But instead of being happy for him, they became jealous and angry because they thought Joseph was boasting. To make matters worse, Joseph dreamed that his brothers would bow before him, which made them even more jealous. One day, when Joseph went to see his brothers who were tending their sheep, they saw him coming from a distance. Driven by jealousy, they plotted to get rid of him. They took his colorful coat and threw it into a deep pit. Later, they saw a group of merchants passing by, and they decided to sell Joseph to them as slaves. Joseph was taken away from his home to a country called Egypt, where he became a servant in the house of a rich man named Potiphar. Despite facing many challenges and difficulties, Joseph remained faithful to God and worked hard. He earned Potiphar's trust and was put in charge of his household. But Joseph once again faced trouble when Potiphar's wife falsely accused him of wrongdoing and put him in jail. Joseph did not lose hope even in jail. He interpreted the dreams of his fellow prisoners, including the dream of Pharaoh's cupbearer. Eventually, word of Joseph's gift reached Pharaoh, who was troubled by strange dreams. Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dreams as warnings of a coming famine and advised him how to prepare for it. Impressed by Joseph's intelligence, Pharaoh appointed him the second ruler after him in Egypt. During a famine, Joseph's brothers came to Egypt in search of food. They did not recognize Joseph, but he recognized them. Instead of seeking revenge, Joseph forgave his brothers and welcomed them with open heart. The story of Joseph teaches us forgiveness, perseverance, and trust in God's plan, even in the most difficult times. Over 2,000 years ago, in a small village nestled between rolling hills and lush forests, there lived a humble farmer named Ethan. Ethan was known throughout the village for his kindness and generosity. Despite having little himself, he was always willing to lend a helping hand to anyone in need. One day, a terrible drought struck the village, and the crops withered away under the scorching sun. The villagers grew anxious as their food supply dwindled, and many feared they would go hungry. But Ethan remained hopeful. He believed that if they worked together, they could overcome any challenge. So he rallied his neighbors and proposed a plan. They would each contribute whatever they could spare from their meager supplies to create a communal garden. The villagers embraced Ethan's idea with gratitude and enthusiasm. They cleared a patch of land near the village center and began planting seeds, watering them diligently despite the scarcity of water. Weeks passed, and the sun continued to beat down relentlessly. The villagers watched anxiously as their newly planted crops struggled to grow. But Ethan remained steadfast in his belief that their hard work would eventually bear fruit. Then one morning, a gentle rain began to fall, nourishing the parched earth and revitalizing the struggling plants. The villagers rejoiced as they watched their crops spring to life, their leaves unfurling and their stems reaching towards the sky. As the harvest season approached, the communal garden flourished, yielding an abundance of fruits and vegetables. The villagers celebrated their success with a bountiful feast, sharing the fruits of their labor with one another and giving thanks for their blessings. The moral of this story is that unity, perseverance, and community spirit can overcome even the most daunting challenges. Ethan's leadership and belief in the power of working together demonstrate the importance of cooperation and mutual support in times of hardship. Ultimately, the story highlights the boundless potential of a community united towards a common goal, teaching us the value of resilience, teamwork, and generosity. In the ancient city of Jerusalem, there lived a devout man named Zacchaeus. He was a tax collector, despised by his own people for working for the oppressive Roman Empire and often taking money beyond limits. Zacchaeus was a rich man, but he was also lonely and unhappy. Despite his wealth, he felt an emptiness in his life, a yearning for something more meaningful. One day, Zacchaeus heard that Jesus was passing through town. Eager to catch a glimpse of Jesus, Zacchaeus climbed a sycamore tree by the roadside, hoping to get a better view of the oncoming crowd. As Jesus approached, Jesus saw Zacchaeus sitting on a tree and said, "Zacchaeus, come down from that tree, for today I will lodge in your house." Overwhelmed with surprise and joy, Zacchaeus quickly came down from the tree and welcomed Jesus into his home with great humility and reverence. As they dined together, Zacchaeus listened attentively to Jesus' teachings, his heart encouraged by the words of wisdom and grace that came from the lips of the revered teacher. Inspired by the transforming power of Jesus' presence, Zacchaeus felt a stirring within his soul, a deep longing for repentance and renewal. In a moment of profound clarity, he stood before Jesus and declared, "Lord, I will give half of my property to the poor, and if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I will repay him 4 times as much." With tears of gratitude streaming down his face, Zacchaeus embraced Jesus with his whole heart, his spirit lifted by the promise of forgiveness and salvation. And in that sacred moment, Jesus declares, "Today salvation has come to this house, for Zacchaeus is truly the son of Abraham." From that day on, Zacchaeus' life was forever changed by his encounter with Jesus. He dedicated himself to a life of generosity and compassion, using his wealth and influence to uplift the marginalized and underprivileged in society. The story of Zacchaeus is a powerful reminder of God's infinite grace and mercy, and the transformative power of meeting Jesus. Through his encounter with Jesus, Zacchaeus experienced a profound change of heart, turning from a life of selfishness and greed to one of selflessness and service to others. His story continues to inspire countless souls today, a testament to the enduring power of faith and repentance in the face of adversity.